Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Kathy Healey, along with my co-host, Mary Macri. On today's show, we're going to be talking to two different nonprofit charitable organizations. With us in the studio today are Executive Director of the Wakefield Food Pantry, Maureen Miller. And we also have Executive Director of Mission of Deeds in Reading, Bruce Murison. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So let's start and talk about a little bit about your backgrounds. What got you into this field? Maureen.
When I got out of college, I went into the corporate field. I studied finance, and I went and worked for a company for many years. Left to bring up my 4 children, and in doing so, I became involved with the food pantry because we would go to the preschool at the Baptist Church in Wakefield that has since burnt down. And the food pantry was originally in the Baptist Church. So in bringing my children to and fro to that, I got introduced to the food pantry. So in 2005, I looked back at how long I'd been there. I joined the food pantry and have been there since in doing one role or another.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great organization. So yeah.
Great, thanks. And Mission of Deeds, how'd you get involved with Mission of Deeds?
Well, it's interesting. I also had a background in finance, and I worked in that for the first 20 or so years of my life out of college. And I was getting kind of burned out, and I thought, well, I'd like to make a change. And I had done a little social service volunteering for a couple of years before that, and it intrigued me. So I saw an ad for a barely started organization called Mission of Deeds in a newspaper I never looked at, ever. And there I see this ad, and then within 24 hours of meeting Tony Triglione, I started in 1995, and I'm still here.
Wow.
So you were right at the ground level of its
Yes.
beginning?
Tony had started the organization in 1993, and I was the first full-time employee in 1995. Yeah.
Wow. That has to be exciting, being at the beginning of it, because you have, it's like your origin story.
It was fun, and I think one of the most rewarding parts to see is how we've gone over the years, helped so many people, and gotten so much community support, and it's all good.
Sounds like Wakefield Food Pantry is the same way. Been in business a long time.
Yes, we have since 1982. Yeah, but we had a huge change in 2010. We moved from the Baptist Church, which we were literally a pantry, opened the cabinet and had 4 shelves, to where we are now, which is the lower level of the Civic Center, and it's like a little grocery store.
Oh wow!
So we have grown quite a bit and changed quite a bit over the years. So
wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So is it just local? Do you just service people locally, or are there other missions of deeds in other areas? Or are there, I know that there are food pantries, but are you a united? Are you all under the same umbrella, or are you
pretty? In terms of the food pantries, we're independent, and generally there is a food pantry in most communities. Not all, but in most communities there are food pantries. They're all at different levels and standards, and but they are supported by the local community. We generally just support Wakefield residents or any residents that are referred to us by congregations or by the Wakefield Police Department or clinicians in town or the school department. Even if they're not in Wakefield, we will support them.
Okay. Yeah. And who does your service benefit? Just Reading, or does it different towns?
No, I mean, we certainly have helped people in Reading and people in Wakefield, but our service area is anywhere in Middlesex or Essex counties. And so that's about 80 towns.
Wow.
Now, in practice, large number of clients come from the more urban areas like Lynn and Lawrence, and some things closer to the city. But there's not a town we haven't helped somebody in. And it's surprising when you have a client in Andover, a client in Winchester or Lexington, you think, but there's need everywhere and you don't always know it. But that's a minority of the clients. But we don't care where somebody is, we just care there's a genuine need and they can't afford to provide beds and household goods on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've donated a lot of my old furniture, and it's a great way to, it's an easier way to get rid of your
to
furniture
reuse, yeah.
and have it reused.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if you are a person in need, how are they referred to you through different organizations, or do people reach out to you individually? How do they get in contact with you?
Well, in the case of Mission of Deeds, the way people get in contact with us is through some sort of a helping agency. Now, that doesn't have to be a licensed clinical social worker, though it could be, but it's often a homeless shelter, a housing organization, a community health center. It can be one of the state agencies, Department of Children and Families, Department of Mental Health, but it can also be a school, a hospital, a house of worship, some sort of a third-party organization that knows the client's situation, knows there's a genuine need that they can't provide on their own. They send in a simple one-page referral form, then an appointment is set up for the client to come and see us, and transportation's arranged so they can take things away.
That's great. Same with the food pantry?
Well, we don't require referrals. We do get referrals, but we don't require them. Really, the only requirement is that you are a Wakefield resident, and you can come. We do get referrals from churches and from the police department and stuff, but not required.
And you serve all types of food, whether is it frozen, is it cans, is it fresh?
Yes, it's a real grocery store.
Oh,
yeah, we
wow.
have frozen meats, we have cheeses, milks, produce. We're trying to move more into the healthy foods versus the canned and non-perishable foods, although we have that too. But it's, if you think of a 7-Eleven, we're sort of like a 7-Eleven.
Wow.
Yeah, it's without the candy.
In Mission of Deeds, that's all furniture, electronics.
That you don't have a food pantry.
Yeah,
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah, we do not. In
Okay.
fact, we do have a kitchen that our volunteers enjoy, and I often say if we were a food pantry, we'd have nothing left for the clients. Because food is our hobby there.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what we're doing for the clients, we have beds. We have a wide variety of furniture. We also have household goods like kitchenware and linens to go with the beds. We have pictures for the wall. We have lamps. Pretty much everything you would need to set up an apartment. But we don't do food. The only thing we do in clothing is we have, the last 3 years, we have a winter coats program, but that's just seasonal and coats only. And year-round, we do have children's books. We have a children's book room. But the focus is how to furnish an apartment for somebody who's been homeless or in another situation where they can't provide things on their own for their home.
So I'm fascinated with this whole idea of setting up the home. For people who are currently homeless and then they've been able to move into a home, that's when you service them. That's when it comes into play. The Mission of Deeds comes into play.
It does. If somebody is still without a home, we can't do anything for them because we're not providing the housing.
Right.
We're providing the stuff to go in the home once they have the home. So that transition out of homelessness has to have happened, and then we go into play.
Now, are you all volunteers? Because I remember you said that you were their first paid employee back in 1995. Is it mostly a volunteer organization?
It is. Most, 95% of the people are volunteers, or 99% of the people involved are. But we do have a small staff that really coordinate the efforts of the volunteers. We have a director of volunteers. We have director of client service. We have a couple of people working in fundraising. We have an office manager, but they're all part-time people. I'm the only full-time person. The other people add up to maybe 4 full-time equivalents in terms of their part-time hours. But interesting thing about it is every one of them started as a volunteer, and we had a need for a certain area, and they were looking for some, part-time employment, and the needs just came together.
Is that the same with the food pantry, more or less?
So we are 99% volunteer. I get a small stipend. We have a bookkeeper, and we have someone that we go into the Greater Boston Food Bank and get 5,000 to 6,000 pounds of food every week.
Oh,
So
goodness.
yeah, it's a lot. It's
Oh,
a,
my goodness.
It's a
That is
huge
something.
operation. So we have the person who drives the truck and gets us the truck. We pay a small stipend to. But those are the three people that we pay a small stipend to.
So the truck, it's like you're renting the truck to go in?
He
and-
takes care of it all.
Oh,
He takes
God
care of
bless
it all.
him.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's great. He's a great volunteer, and like I said, he does get a small stipend for it. But so a small amount, we get a small amount of money. But honestly, we have 70 to 100 volunteers, and they are the backbone of our operation, and they do
I
it
can't
just
imagine
for the.
just the thought of 5,000 pounds.
It's an operation
of
to
food
see
coming
Yummy.
in
every week.
And how? I mean, I
And that much
complain
goes out
about my
every week.
5 bags
Wow.
of groceries.
And that much goes out.
Yeah.
I know, that's amazing.
It is a huge. It's a huge operation. Yeah.
Now, how does one volunteer with both the organizations? Would they just go on your website to both of
In
your
our case,
websites?
that's what you would do. You go on our
Okay.
website. We list on our website those positions that we currently have open, but you could subscribe to our email addresses, and if we have new open positions, you'll hear about it that way too.
And that's wakefieldfoodpantry.org
Yeah, wakefieldfoodpantry.org. Yeah.
and missionofdeeds.org as well.
Yes, missionofdeeds.org. You can also telephone us about volunteering. We have, as I mentioned, a director of volunteers. Her name is Donna Snow, or they can contact me or whoever answers the phone. And we try to come up with a task talent match for the volunteer versus what we do. Some people think that, well, we're moving furniture, so it has to be heavy duty. Doesn't have to be heavy duty. If you can volunteer on the truck or in the warehouse, we love that. But we have all sorts of people who do light duty. We have some phone work. We have office work. We have sorting linens and kitchenware. We have testing lamps. I mean, so we also have a woodwork shop, which is quite a thing. So there's a lot of different things people can do.
Yeah.
But if they say they can drive a truck or move furniture, then they're marked for life. That's something there's not
Yes.
too many
Yes,
people
you
around
can't
who want to
find
do
that.
that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we love them. We love
As
them
a,
all.
as a follow-up to that, is the woodwork shop for, like, say if a piece of furniture needs a little
That's what it's for.
repair? And,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's good to know.
The one thing we are try to be careful to take things in good
Right.
usable condition. But certain things, if a bureau, the top is scratched up, or an end table, a leg is a little bit weak, but otherwise it's good, then we will take it and it goes through the workshop before it would go out to a client. And we have, all of our volunteers are amazing, as I know your volunteers are.
Yeah.
Volunteers in general are just amazing people. But the workshop, we have 5 retired physicians. We have an electrical engineer, we have a general contractor, a retired pastor, we have another engineer. We have an amazing group of people, a couple of business owners. We had one man who was in charge of several departments at the Volk School, and they're all in there, not making a penny for it, and fixing up furniture for people in need.
That's great.
That's great. Maureen, can you tell us a story about maybe one of the people that
Oh,
got some?
yeah. There's a lot of touching stories. Well, we had one woman whose mother was diagnosed with cancer. She had to leave her job. She had to take care of her mom and bring her to treatments and etc. And she was somebody not from Wakefield actually, but she couldn't make it to her food pantry during the time because she was bringing her mother to treatment. So she came to us through the Greater Boston Food Bank, where we get that 5,000 to 6,000 pounds of food every week. They referred her to us, and we were able to help her through that time. She's since not gone back to work. Her mother did not pass away, but she's still caring for her. So it's situations like that it's good. You know, you lose your job, and maybe you can get food at the food pantry so you can pay your oil bill or your electric bill or something like that. It's a basic need that people have. We've had people who are in abuse situations who can't work because if there's a danger if they're at work that they the person who is abusing them might find them, so they can't work. So they have been referred to us and come to the pantry for food, and we can do that on the side and in off hours. I had a young mom a single mom, has a son. She has a full-time job, but she can't make ends meet.
Wow.
Massachusetts is a very expensive place to
It
live.
is.
Yeah.
It's really sad that that is our state of affairs.
Yeah, she works for a company. You would say, wow, she must have a really good job. She's just an administrative assistant there, but she works there, but she can't make ends meet. And so she comes to us, same as I just said, so she can come to us and get food and then possibly pay a car bill or another bill she has. So, lots of touching stories we see every day. And Wakefield's a great community that they allow us to support us enough so we can support those people in
That's
need.
terrific.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bruce, have you got a story?
Oh, again, there are so many that we could almost tell one, every day. But one thing I think of, everything we do is household goods, except I mentioned a winter coat program. Well, we had a young man in his early 20s who came with his mom. He was a client. He needed a bed and a couple of other things. He was autistic. And but what he had always wanted, a Carhartt coat. Now, personally, I had no idea what Carhartt was, but fortunately the women who were there who serviced the coat, helped with the coat program, they knew what he was talking about. Well, we had one, and it was perfectly his size.
Oh,
So not only did he get his bed and a few other things for his place, but he got this Carhartt jacket. And his mother wrote us the most touching note, how much it had meant to her to see her son so happy. And he was wearing that jacket every day and loved his bed. And, that sort of thing really, made us feel great. So, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Is there an age that you find tends to need more help than others ages, or is it a life situation?
We have families with little children and we have elders and everybody in between. So I wouldn't say there's one age more than others. I would say typical clients are probably moms who, for one reason or another, are on their own with children. But that's not something that is just something which kind of happens. But the need is of every age.
The same with the pantry, but there's an elderly population, fixed income. We have the housing authority has low-income housing that has either elderly or disabled.
Right.
So we have a population from there who come to us. Wakefield has a lot of rooming houses. We have a lot of single bed rooms that mainly single men, but also women stay. And so we have a lot of that population that comes to us too. And they are all ages also. But yeah, the elderly population and the single men population is probably our biggest group that we serve. Yeah.
Wow. And what do you guys need most in terms of food and in terms of furniture, linens? Like, what is the top item that you need most? Like, when you go into your day, like, what do you say? Geez, this is what we really need.
Well, this sounds bad, but we need money.
Oh,
I was just about to ask you. People donate money.
If Wakefield is such a generous community, and this time of the year, if you came to the Civic Center, we've got every little corner filled with canned foods that the high school has done a drive for, the middle school has done a drive, the Boy Scout troop, the Girl Scout troop, every organization in the world has done a drive for us, which is absolutely wonderful. So we get a lot of food from food drives, which is helpful, but by going to the Greater Boston Food Bank, which I mentioned before, we can buy, for $1, we can buy $4 worth of food that you could get at Market Basket. If you went to Market Basket and spent $1, we could go to the Wakefield, Greater Boston Food Bank and spend a quarter of that for it. So, because we either get free or low cost. So money is always more helpful to us because we can get one, what we need, and two, we can get more for the value. So that's why it's funny for a food pantry to ask for money, but that is really what we need.
That's
because
good
then you're able to fit the actual need you have.
Right,
yes.
right.
And a lot of people don't know that.
No.
Yeah, we're trying to get that word out. It is a tough one, but we are trying. And people like to do food drives. They like to give you something physical.
Because you would
Right.
see it.
Which I do not want to discourage, because that does help
Okay.
us. That does help us. But if you were to ask what a preference would be, money is
Money.
is more useful
good
for
to
us.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about you, Bruce?
Well, that's a really good point about buying power. So if people donate funds to us and they earmark it for a certain thing, we buy a twin mattress box spring and bed frame for $90. And I doubt that
You can get
many
that.
of our donors can go into a store and
Right,
do that.
no.
And the same way, if we have to buy a pillow or a blanket, we get so many of these things donated, but when we don't, we do use donated funds. And we have researched prices backwards and forwards to be able to get online sources or wholesale sources to get things cheaper than you would in the store. But having said that, we also, like you have food drives, we have people who do blanket drives and other sorts of drives, and that's a wonderful thing. We found that drives work best, we learn over time, that when they're very specifically targeted. So we used to do general drives, and sometimes with, mixed results, good results, and maybe things we couldn't use quite as much. So we're now targeting really to single item drives. During the winter, of course, blanket drives are
Right.
great. But one thing, if I had to name at the moment, I would say we could so much use would be working newer, gently used small appliances, toasters, coffee makers, blenders, mixers, things like
Oh.
that. So you think it's just interesting, having done this for so long, that you see kind of the buying habits and the turnover habits of people's homes. People have lots of different sets of dishes, and they'll donate dishes, but they'll keep their pots and pans. Or, appliances, you tend to not, change your appliances as long as they're working. So if people have working things of small appliances, those are tremendously needed. And everything is needed. Anything that can be used to set up a house, the pictures for the wall, the lamps, the furniture, we can use it all. And we even have on our website a list of things that we especially are looking for, and then some things that we don't take. There are things we don't take too. So it's really whatever the donor has that works within our categories we love, as long as it's in good, usable condition.
I'm always worried when I think, is this good enough for to be donated? So if I bring something down, will they be honest with me and say, oh, no? I don't want to give more work to your volunteers by having to shift through something that they easily could have just said to me, no.
And we appreciate that. That's the ideal way. And most people are like that. Most people are absolutely like that. If it's a large item, if we get a couch that's torn or badly really soiled at all, then we will tell somebody, that we just can't do. So the larger the item is, the more we have to be careful about taking, the things we're really going to be able to turn over.
Now, where are your funds all from donations, or are there organizations that support you, or how does your funding happen?
For the most part, we are funded by you and me and our neighbor writing $25 checks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Honest to God, that it adds up. And as I said, Wakefield really does support us. We get grants, though. We get grants from the local banks and different organizations. But in general, it's donations of the local community that we're funded by.
Wow. That's
fantastic. And it covers a lot. Yeah.
Admission of deeds, is that?
It's the same way. We have no government support. We don't want that. It's all private support. We do some grant writing to foundations. But again, the bread and butter is the individual donor. And when we open the $25 check, we're just as excited as when we open a grant check. In some ways, even more, because the large number of $25 checks, that's a base of support in the community that really is the wind beneath our wings. So whether amounts are large or small or in between, they all get used, and we're grateful for them.
That's great. So in both of your positions, you're dealing with people that are in dire straits, dealing with diversity and all, it's tough circumstances. Does that affect you guys? Like, how do you keep a positive outlook, and does your job have a high burnout rate?
Well, I haven't burned out yet.
Thankfully.
But it's tough, but it's also so rewarding. I mean, we had two people that came in yesterday who definitely needed food, but they were also upset because they didn't have gifts for their children for Christmas. And we were able to connect them through referrals to some other group. And, you leave the day then and you feel like, I made a difference, So that in itself, I think, lends me not to being burnt out.
That's great.
Yeah, encourages me that way.
Good.
I would second that in terms of when there are a lot of problems in the world, and we have to recognize we can't solve them all.
Mm-hmm.
And problems will always be with us, whether we wish it were that way or not. But when we can come in the morning and see people come in need and go away happy and less in need, and when we see all the generosity of the people who care enough to donate their time, to donate their goods, to donate their funds, to change the lives of those people, that's all good. And so we really look at the positive side of what's happening, and that really makes us energetic and looking forward to coming in every day.
Oh, that's great.
I think that people don't realize that. They think of Wakefield in a certain way and or Reading in a certain way. Oh, we don't have, but every town does.
People are always surprised when they see our
Yes.
numbers. We supported over 600 families last year.
Wow.
And people don't, hunger and to some extent your furniture in your house is invisible. You don't go into your neighbor's house and open the cabinets and notice, oh my gosh, there's no food in here, or there's no food in the refrigerator, or they don't have a toaster on their counter. So it's invisible to a lot of people, and it's also embarrassing for those people. So that's a challenge we're always having. I wouldn't stand up and say, I don't have any food, and make an announcement. So we're always trying to deal with that stigma of getting people to come to us who are in need, because we do have the resources, but we don't want them to be embarrassed. So we're always trying to get them to come to us, because people do not realize it.
No. And the fact that you're so compassionate and treating people with honor and dignity, because that's how we should treat everybody with honor and dignity. How people end up in situations, it doesn't matter. They just need help.
Right.
They just need our help.
Right.
Are there more people in need today than there were years ago? Since when you first started, do you find, like you said, back in 2005? Or,
Well, we saw a huge increase. 2008 was the recession.
Yes.
It probably went up like that, 25% for a couple of years in a row.
Wow.
Flattened out, but it hasn't gone down. Interestingly enough, it hasn't gone down. So it's still up there, but it's not going up at a steep increase, but it's not going down either. Last year we saw a 5% increase, so maybe 20 extra households last year that we saw. But for a year before that, it was flat. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why it hasn't gone down, because the economy is better, but there was a huge one during the recession, huge increase of people coming to us. Yeah.
Is that similar for Mission of Deeds, Bruce?
Well, we do service more clients each year, but we also find ways to expand our hours and do different things. So I'm someone a little reluctant to draw too many conclusions from our numbers, since even though we service a lot of families, to make any societal or big conclusions over the statistics of just us, I'm reluctant to do. But there certainly is need out there, and we try to fulfill as much of it as we can.
Wow, that's great.
Do you find that people come back who have been helped come back to volunteer?
Yeah, we've had that.
Oh,
yeah, we've had that. Come back to volunteer, come back and donated food, money.
Pay it forward, yeah.
Yeah, they really have. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we've definitely found that.
Same with Mission of Deeds?
We've had a couple of people do that. We don't encourage it, but it certainly has happened, and a lot of people express that feeling when they leave and say, gee, I'd like to find some way to help at some point.
Well, I commend you both. Really, it's two great organizations.
Thank you.
And if you, the viewer, want to donate or volunteer your time, you'd want to go on wakefieldfoodpantry.org or missionofdeeds.org. And again, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
your
us.
time.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. And that's another edition of Talk of the Town.